I just refuse to take inserious people seriously, and the more serious the circumstance, the more that personality quirk kicks in. You know what I mean? Like there's times when I don't feel necessarily motivated to go after people that I disagree with politically or ideologically or philosophically or psychosexually. But there are times when the circumstance is so ridiculously over the top awful that it creates a stark contrast to the comments that they are making and makes them stand out as even more illegitimate, psychotic, and ridiculous. Speaking of illegitimate, psychotic, and ridiculous, because I know those are three words that both turn on and upset our next segment. Look, it's Glenn Greenwald getting broomed off of Laura Ingram's show for Donald Trump. So this is the one where this is the Aquaman clip. I have not listened to this, but I want to hear what else was there. You know, one of the things that other shows do, one of the things that other people do on the interwebs is they take a piece of something and they, that's obviously worth attention and they jump on it with both feet. And I don't necessarily fault them for that. But then they leave all the other stuff behind as if it creates sort of a mental gish gallop in the one way that, let's say Trump says something about, we ought to nuke somebody, and they play that, oh my God, he's a nutcase, he said we ought to nuke somebody, and the people who think he's tough go, yeah, that's the kind of talk I like from a fella, and all the people who don't want to die in a nuclear war go, I don't know how I feel, I don't know if I feel well about him suggesting that, that sounds bad, and at the same time, both of those people get to live the illusion that there was nothing else there, that the tough guy people who like the fact that he suggested nuking someone, you go, the whole speech was tough. He's a tough kind of guy. Says it like it is. And no, Greenwald does not live in Russia. He Edward Snowden does, who by the way, a bit quiet lately. Curiously, he lives in Brazil, insofar as I know. Yes. So, in this particular, where was I? Oh, yes. So the people who also hear Trump going nuke somebody and go, oh my God, he said nuke somebody. They're like, oh my God, he's gonna try and do it. He wants to do it. Miss out on the rest of the conversation he had, where it would kind of make all the people who think he's tough go, oh, he's not tough at all. That was just part of a long line of ridiculousness. He was just spouting. The rest of that thing was incoherent horseshit. And so he's not tough at all. And then the people who were afraid he's going to launch some sort of nuclear attack, if they listened to the rest of the conversation, would go, oh, he's a blathering idiot. This is nonsense, and I don't fear this man because I doubt he can tie his shoes without farting, and he's surrounded by people who will try to write down the contents of the fart. So yeah. I'm not concerned about these folks. I'm not concerned about Trump in this situation. And the fact that Russia is playing clips of Trump saying nice things about Putin, he did that all during the time he was president. Now he's saying them as an ex-president. He is viewed by an ever-growing swath of humans as a waste of space, including Republicans. Something like 40% of them don't want him to run again. Actively, there's another 20% like, oh, I'm not sure, because they're not sure they can say it out loud. Now, but Glenn Greenwald was on there talking about how I'm sure this independent journalist that more than likely, I didn't watch this interview and I don't care to. We'll just assume Glenn in his attempt, by the way, who's currently late for a Peter Sellers lookalike contest. Where he will actually, where he'll come in third, but he could win an NPC lookalike contest. I'm just saying, a non-player character. He looks like a shapeshifter who can't make up his mind. So, here's something about it's our fault. Whatever's happening, it's not Putin's fault. Putin's not a bad guy. It's not his fault. He's been a gracious host to Yanukovych and Lukashenko and Edward Snowden. He's a mensch. So, hello, Dmitry. Hello. Well, yes, I hear you. Yes, and you're coming through clear and fine, coming through fine. I'll see if do I have that? Yeah, here. Yes. Hello, Dimitri. Yes. Yes. Hello. Yes. You could. Yes. Yeah. Yes, Dimitri. Do you think you could turn? Do you think you could turn the music down? Yes. That's. That's. Yes. That's better. Be careful, Mr. President. I think he's a little bit drunk. Hmm. Uh, Dimitri, yes. Well, I'm calling to talk to you about something very serious, Dimitri. Well, yes, I do like to talk to you. I do want to just say hello, but I've got something. Well, of course I like to say hello. Well, yes, I like to talk to you and say hello, but this is very important. Yes. Well, yes, let me tell you what's going on. One of our bombers went and did a silly thing, and he went a little funny in the head. Mm-hmm. You know, funny. And right. If you haven't seen Doctor Strangelove, this may be your last chance. Watch it immediately so you can have it in your brain for the afterlife. Hey, Hype Train, right on. Thanks for the Hype Train. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe before we get started. There we go. Whew. Come on now. Share the show. Don't forget to share it with your friends and all that other stuff. I'm going to need you guys to remind me every half hour reset. I'm just terrible at this stuff. Our subs will fall off a cliff if I don't keep mentioning it, and I'm terrible at doing that. But here, Trump called in to Laura Ingraham and bumped Glenn Greenwald from the show, and I'm sure it went fantastic.
I wouldn't do this if it weren't for the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, who's joining us now. President Trump.
Yes, no one else on earth would make me boot you off, Glenn. If I wouldn't get rid of you, you're so interesting. If it wasn't for someone who's twice as interesting as you and equally as well informed, the former president of the United States and the man who has made more soup in his pants than any other president since, I guess, George H.W. Bush's intestinal distress in Japan.
Soup for my family.
So let's see. Here we go.
For joining us tonight via telephone. You're watching this unfold. Your reaction to Putin's threat if any Western nation or any nation intervenes with this Russian military action.
Well, this is something that should have never happened. This would not have happened during.
By the way, that's true. It would not have happened during Trump. Putin would not have had to invade. Trump was planning on giving him Ukraine. He was going to recognize Crimea and Donbass and the entire area around there, and then basically do all this talk about, well, Ukraine's really part of Russia, and call it the Ukraine in a bunch of speeches for about a year. And then by the end of his first year of his second term, there'd already be forces in there, and they'd be, pushing. Somebody would assassinate Zelensky, essentially. They wouldn't have to take the country. They would just absorb it in that idea. Now that he's out of office and his, the Putin's stooge is removed, now he's got to do it the hard way.
My administration, in fact, some people were saying, why didn't this take place over the last 4 years?
Because it didn't have to take place, because you were talking about how Ukraine's part of Russia, and you should really recognize the Crimean areas. And you know what? While we're at it, put Russia back in the G7, make it the G8 again.
Our administration, and it didn't for a very good reason, and I'll explain that to you someday. But
not now. Explain it later. Tell us why it didn't happen, even though it's obviously been Putin's plan for his whole fucking life. And he even said so in his weird little speech that, like, he didn't come up with the idea that Ukraine is part of Russia last January.
Wouldn't have taken place, and it wouldn't have taken place right now. And it's a very sad thing for the world, for the country, and it's certainly very sad for a lot of people that are going to be needlessly killed.
Well,
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of necessary murder in the world, and this isn't that, That's the thing about this. This is a lot of needless death. They could have just, these poor Russians who are going to be fighting. I mean, the Ukrainians are going to die because they're supposed to. But it's sad that they're going to fight back. All these needless Russian deaths.
Give us a sense, though. I mean, you know Vladimir Putin. I mean, you've dealt with him. How would you have avoided this?
Pick up where you left off last time. Something about cradle the balls, work the shaft, say
conflict.
His name.
How would you have prevented these series of events from unfolding?
Well, look, I do know him, and I know him very well. We've had many, many times together. I got along with him.
Many, many times together. Times like these are made for
fantastically. Despite the fact that I shut down Nord Stream 2, nobody would have heard of Nord Stream 2 if it weren't for me. I'm the one that shut it down. And I'm the one that told Angela, you're doing a terrible thing by doing this. And they were going to get 75%, not 30%, 75% of their energy from Nord Stream 2.
I love how every number, whatever it is, just double it. You've been lied to. That's the underlying situation. Anytime they tell you like, oh yeah, like 800,000 people cross the border, but it's more like 2 million. It's probably 5 million. If they're saying, if they're saying 800 and I'm saying 2, it's probably double what I'm saying because they're lying to me. Add the extra 800 to that. And it's not the same people coming across the border over and over again. It's brand new people and toddlers who are going to vote.
It was ridiculous. If you remember, I told you this privately once. I sent them a white flag, a flag of surrender. I gave it to, she said, what does this mean? I said, that means you'll.
And by the way, what a weird fucking story. He tells this story all the time. Does anybody believe it? Does anybody believe he actually sent her in the mail a white flag? Or that he just waved his napkin at her once? And it's just turned into another. Because I don't buy it. I think that, I think this is horseshit.
Surrender as far as Russia's concerned. They've had a lot of conflicts over the centuries.
Yes, over the centuries. Yes. So you know what? You don't have time to tell us why things would be different, but go back. Tell us about the first conflict. I mean, we all know this World War I, World War II kind of stuff. Go back further than that. I mean, Germanic tribes and Vikings. Come on.
That it's a terrible thing. The way it started, I really don't believe he wanted to do this initially. I think he wanted to do something and negotiate it. It just got worse.
He wanted to take it just by asking for it, and then like there she was walking in a short skirt, and he was like, maybe I'll just ask her to get in the van. And then he had the chloroform and he had the rag in his hand, and it was just like, well, if Trump was around, he could help me get her in the van. But in this case, I'm just going to have to do it myself. It's a little messy.
Worse, and then he saw the weakness. And it really started, I think, with the weakness in Afghanistan, the way they pulled out of Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. We're not in Afghanistan anymore. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years, and we're not anymore. Remember that, guys? Hey, remember when we were in Afghanistan?
I really believe that's where he started thinking, he can do this. Yeah. Because when he saw how pathetic.
Yeah, yes. President Trump, I want to just ask you this. We understand that President Biden is monitoring the situation at the White House now and is going to talk to the G7 tomorrow.
One of my favorite things was Laura was monitoring the situation. I do it every morning. I'd monitor the situation. That's what I call watching Fox and Friends. So good.
Tomorrow? And he's going to talk to the nation at some point tomorrow as well. Your reaction to that approach?
I don't think...
Yeah, Laura, are you on it isn't she on it 10 o'clock at night? We just heard from the White House that they're going to speak, when people are up.
Monitoring. I think he's probably sleeping right now. This is a terrible thing. This is something that should have never happened. I really believe that it was Afghanistan when he looked at that horrible, weak pullout, one of the worst, when the military gets pulled out first, when our soldiers are dying and horribly wounded. And, when we leave 7.
Oh, right. You mean because of the ISIS suicide bomber that the Taliban that you negotiated the exit with allowed to get through? So I see. Yeah, that killed our soldiers because it was a crush at the airport because you hadn't done any of the homework leading up to, oh, good.
$85 billion worth,
over the course of 20 years.
Dollars worth of equipment. You know, they're one of the biggest sellers of military equipment in the world right now. They're selling.
Yes, you want some Afghan rifles, never been fired and only dropped once.
Equipment that we left at $85 billion. And we left hostages behind, a lot of hostages.
We didn't leave any hostages behind. There are no fucking hostages in Afghanistan. Like, what? Look, I know the rest of the bullshit. Nobody's checking the $85 billion number. Yeah, so not only is there a hostage, but he'll negotiate with him. Tell you what, you can pull a Reagan. You get in, or you'll run again, and then you'll, in the lead up, you'll negotiate with the Taliban that you helped get in power by breaking their leadership out of jail, and you can negotiate the release of the hostages. What hostages? If you have a dual citizenship and you're in the opium trade and you stayed behind in Afghanistan, you are not a hostage. Meanwhile, everybody else that left went to another country that's in Iran or it's in Pakistan or in Uzbekistan or on one of our bases. He's like, whatever you do, keep those fuckers out of the country.
Just more than anybody knew. I think when they saw that, Laura.
Yeah, Laura, keep him on track. He's starting to, you're letting him needle drop one of his rally segments. It's muscle memory.
They said, maybe we can do this.
President Trump, the burgeoning friendship between President Xi and President Putin.
Mm-hmm. Yes, two old friends of yours that you know quite well. Can you call them and see what's happening? And by the way, burgeoning. All right.
Of deep concern now, finally, I should say, to the State Department, which described this.
Yes, it wasn't a concern at all during the Trump years. At all.
As a potentially destructive force in the world. Gone is the hope for some new world order where, you know, everyone's going to get along. If you have our two major adversaries now working in concert, seemingly against the West.
Yeah, seemingly. That's a good way of putting it, Laura. By the way, if I may, let's see. Need a new window, and then I drag this over here, and then I move this over here, and then I go China BRI map. And then, yeah, there we go. Hey, look at that. And then we grab this little map right here, and then we just see if I can pick that up, and then I'll see if it'll, yeah, this will be big enough. And try to grab this, and then I'll drag it over here, and then I'll open it up so we can all look at it. There we go. There you go. Here's the Belt Road Initiative. This is China's plan for the world. Can I show you guys why this idiot and the idiot interviewing him, oops, well, wake back up. There you go. Have no fucking clue what's going on Earth, on planet Earth right now at all. This is the Belt Road Initiative. This is the, oddly enough, the road part is the water and the belt part is the land crossing. Anyways, so here's all this stuff. This is the unused part of China. This is where Xinjiang is. This is where you'd find some of those Uyghur concentration camps, right about that juncture right there. Makes it a little complicated if this has been your plan the whole time. Oh, we'll get to how India feels about China in a couple of minutes. Because see this one down here, this Colombo and this Kolkata, and that shit ain't happening. What's happening now is this to way to that, maybe. And so this is a big thing right here. That goes up through Kazakhstan. Remember all that mess in Kazakhstan? No, look at how many lanes this goes through Kazakhstan. Look at all the land up in in Russia. Why didn't it go through there? Because the land sucks and the weather's terrible and it's unusable, so they have to do it down here. So China's got the Belt Road Initiative. It's going to go through Kazakhstan, down here through Istanbul and Turkey and stuff, and they're making deals and they want to go through Iran. This is how they're paying off Iran. The problem is Iran's problems are all in this area. This is the area where the Saudis are fighting with are fomenting a breakaway revolution in Iran, and there are Iranians that are fomenting a breakaway group down here. So that's another conversation for another time. This whole fucking part right here is gnarly. It's just like it's Israel and Palestine, but with like ships firing each other. All right. So then, okay. So you guys have been looking at this map lately, right? So here goes the big part up through Kazakhstan, goes right through Moscow, up here to St. Petersburg, into this water so it can get stuff out to Rotterdam and into Europe. And this is all this is where all the money is. This is where the stuff is. This is where the good stuff is. So you can bring all this shit around. You go through the Suez Canal, and you can ship things in and out of Europe and make money and have trade and all that kind of stuff with Europe. But where does it have to go through? Because the water stuff up here is fine. But look at this. Look at the train station that splits up here, the Belt Road Initiative, breaks off right up here at Moscow. And then I'll be goddamn if it move over here, will you? Right, it comes up through Moscow. By the way, imagine, if you will, China telling the United States, hey, by the way, you know this train line? We bought that. We're keeping that. Yes, and you are correct. The Kazakhstan is where Borat is from. Good, well spotted. So Moscow, imagine if you will, if China said, yeah, we bought Amtrak as it goes through Washington, D.C. Yeah, we'd feel totally friendly about that idea. All right, then what's this little country right here? What's that? What's happening there? What's happening here? This Belarus. This is Ukraine right here, and then this is Turkey down here, and then the Black Sea. That's Crimea right there. And so you gotta, if you're gonna trade that with China, they have to be able to move through here without having to pay these guys anything. And if this doesn't work out, is the only way to the water, right there. This is also I'll show you up here. Right here, this is where St. Petersburg is. This is where the Nord Stream 1 goes through into Germany, and Nord Stream 2 is right next to it. Goes right to here. Just so you know. Hold on. Shrink this down. Shrink down. Shrink gun. Okay, I guess we have to... Oh, I'm not on the thing. There you go. Shrink gun. The interesting thing about this one is it doesn't show you the other route around Russia. There's another line that goes all the way around. This pink line right here goes all the way around Russia, which makes them also very nervous. So anyways, dude has no idea about this. They're both trade partners and adversarial. Russia is about to learn the same lesson from China that we learned. The only difference is China has a way bigger economy. So it will basically absorb Russia.
Did you think that was an important dynamic to disrupt when you were president, given what a obviously powerful alliance that could end up being? Yeah, he broke it up. If it wasn't for him, they'd have been like this a long time ago.
Well, I had a good relationship with both, but it was hurt by the Russia hoax, which was a total hoax.
Why?
Happened with Durham and those reports and other reports, including Mueller. It was just a made-up hoax, and it really hurt our country. But despite...
Honestly, it looks like somebody translating what he's saying.
Hoax, I had a good relationship, and had a very good relationship with President Xi of China, other than he wasn't happy about the fact that I was tariffing and taxing the hell out of him, which somebody had to do finally after so many years. But had a very good relationship.
Right.
You know, as a young man growing up, I always heard that the worst thing that can happen is if you drive those two countries together. And it really started.
Is that really? That as a young man growing up, that's what he heard. Was the worst thing you can do is drive Russia and China together. Well, then why the fuck did you stand by while the BRI was being launched? What the hell is that?
Obama and energy, he drove them together because...
we drove because why? Because they need energy and Russia has it.
One needed the energy and the other one needed the money. He drove them together, and Biden put them. I kept them apart, and Biden now it looks like it's a great love fest, and that's a very
what? Okay, first of all, what do you? There's pipelines between China and Russia that have been there for years. The fuck is he talking about? That's just weird. If Laura Ingraham, for God's sake, ask him to clarify, because that's just gibberish. What are you talking? Hold on. Now I'm getting irritated. Give me a second. So, let's see. China, Kazakhstan energy. That'll do it. This is that's an article about Kazakhstan. By interviewing Kazakhstan, yeah, here you go. No thanks. Yeah, this just happened. Kazakhstan, energy hub for China and Europe. Kazakhstan becomes a major energy destination for China and the West, giving increased demand for oil and gas in the near future. At a recent high-level bilateral meeting between Kazakhstan's Prime Minister Askar Mamin and his Russian counterpart Mikhail Mishustin, you missed Mishustin very much. They're going to get CNG, blah, blah, blah. Kazakhstan, unrecognized energy power and uncertain geopolitical. Due to the importance of its oil, coal, and uranium reserves, Kazakhstan, the 9th country in the world in terms of surface, plays a significant role in the market. Since it obtained its independence in 1991, its development has been intrinsically linked to the capacity to attract foreign investors, especially America, to exploit its hydrocarbon fields, whose complex technical characteristics require the intervention and expertise of Western companies. That's part of the sanction stuff that's going on, too. Oil accounts for 80% of the production of exploitation and extraction category. Exports of mineral products accounted on average for 75% of Kazakhstan's total exports between 2013 and 2020. Geez, did Biden just let that happen? Okay. Created 2012 administrative states to go, KMG, upstream, these are all the companies. Oil, there I go. Commonwealth of Independent States. After Russia, Kazakhstan has the largest recoverable oil reserves in the Caspian Sea region. According to the BP's Statistical Review of World Energy, its proven reserves amount to about 30 billion barrels of oil by the end of 2017. Let's see, that's where the field are. This is from a site that deals with the sales of it. So think of it as sort of the Wikipedia for the resources. Natural gas, Western China. There you go. The ministries of energy in Russia and Kazakhstan aim to promote the market for fuels and vehicles using natural gas and create a supply chain. Therefore, Russia's energy minister, Nikolai Shulganov, and his Kazakh counterpart, Maxim Mizergyayev, have signed a memorandum of understanding in the field of infrastructure development and the use of natural gas as fuel on the international transport route Europe/Western China. Yeah. So they've been in this business for over a decade and a half with, by the way, all American and European oil extraction gear. If they don't get new stuff, they don't get any better at it. It stagnates. They can't, like, I've shown you guys the sprout drilling for natural gas that they've been doing. They don't have the technology to do that yet the way we do in the United States, where you have one well, but 3 arms in 2 directions coming off the base of it. So you're taking in all this, but it comes out one pump. They still have one pump, one line. I mean, idle hands are the devil's workshop, so they don't have any reason to make it more efficient right now, but they will.
I think for the fact. And I think you could probably add Iran into it, too, because they're including Iran also, Laura. It's a very bad thing that's happened. Very, very bad
How
thing.
How critical is it now? I'm sorry to interrupt, but how critical is it now that this administration, even with all of its climate change, fanaticism, that it moves to lower the cost of energy for Americans, given how we've already seen a huge run-up right up to this conflict for a variety of reasons, but this is obviously not helping. Do you think this might break their desire to kill oil and gas, at least for a short period of time?
No, because
Well, and by the way, it's not us that needs it. It's Europe. The reason the price is going up is because there's so many places you can sell it for a lot more. And the destabilization in Europe and the lack of supply from OPEC and from Russia to Europe is why the price is going up, because Europe can afford to buy it at a higher rate. So our companies, we don't have nationalized oil here. So our companies that are drilling on American land or drilling in, outside Alaska or off our coasts, that stuff is sold on the open market. It's the overall amount that's in the world market that allows for the price to be set, essentially. And there's different variants of kinds of crude oil and where it comes from, and the price is a little bit better. Like you want the easier to refine crude. That's the Brent crude and sweet crude and all that stuff. That's what they're talking about. They're like the easier to refine stuff. And then there's like tar sands, which is the shit. And then there's sort of the, there's shale oil, which is sort of in the middle, lower end. That stuff is harder to process, but there's a decent amount of it, but it also, earthquakes, shit like that.
Yesterday, he ended a lot of leases and a lot of the energy and the oil. He ended leases just yesterday because it wasn't.
Since when? Hold on. Biden ends leases oil, whatever. Oh, gas leads illegal. It's amid legal fight on climate change. Oh, I see. This is what it is. Halts new drilling in legal fight over climate costs. This is what he's talking about. This is new drilling. This is not, by the way, this is not oil that's been found yet. This is the kind of stuff that won't be in the market for over a year, maybe more. Because this is finding oil, if you can find it. Administration halts new drilling in legal fight over climate costs. The Interior Department is pausing new federal oil and gas leases and permits after a judge blocked the government from weighing the cost of climate damage in decisions. Near Port Fourchon, Louisiana, federal judge ruled the Biden administration used certain metrics to artificially increase the cost of drilling. So it's an exchange between the two. We want to factor that in because the American people don't want to have to pay for it. If you have an oil spill because you're fucking around, we don't want to be on the hook for it. So it's going to cost more to drill there because the damage you do is higher. Biden administration is indefinitely freezing decisions about new federal oil and gas drilling. This has nothing to do with current amount in the pipeline. And gas drilling is part of a legal brawl with Republican-led states that could significantly impact Biden's plans to tackle climate change. The move, which came Saturday, was a response to a recent federal ruling that blocked the way the Biden administration was calculating the real cost of climate change, a figure that guides a range of government decisions, from pollution regulation to whether to permit new oil, gas, or coal extraction on public lands and in federal waters. Under Obama, the government estimated that the damage from wildfires, floods, and rising sea levels was $51 for every ton of carbon dioxide generated by burning fossil fuels. Trump lowered the number considerably, setting it at $7 or less per ton. Upon taking office, Mr. Biden revived the $51 level and set upon updating it further, work that is underway. So it basically just went back to the Obama number. Known as the social cost of carbon, the metric is designed to underline the potential economic threats from greenhouse gases emissions so they can be compared to the economic benefits from acts like oil drilling. Yes, you may get cheaper oil, but ultimately, are you doing yourself more damage? This would be the fast food will feed you and keep you alive temporarily, but your health bills later will be worse. Ta-da! I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. I'm allergic to climate talk. Excuse me. There we go. All right.
With the environment, this whole environmental thing has gotten out of control. China doesn't adhere to it. Russia doesn't adhere to it. India doesn't adhere to it. Nobody adheres to it but the United States.
Well, in Europe, and we're working in partnership with a lot of other countries. That's again, this goes to the whole thing like, since everybody's smoking, we should start smoking.
He's driving us out of business. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. We have to get back into the real world now. We had energy at a level that nobody's ever seen. We would have been double the size of Saudi Arabia and Russia.
Well, Saudi Arabia is out of oil, basically, and they're becoming cash poor. That's one of the reasons why they're lowering their output, because they can't help but lower their output.
Combined in 1 year, we were already bigger, and we were energy independent for the first time, probably ever. They say in
We still are.
72 years, probably ever. We were
President
energy
Trump,
independent, and he blew it.
We're just learning that U.S. officials are looking at a potential amphibious landing now in Odessa, Ukraine. Again, a month ago or 3 weeks ago, all the so-called experts were saying that, Putin was probably going to just be content with staying in those separatist regions. But I think given what's unfolded, sadly, with a lot of weakness in the United States, they just decided to go for it. I mean...
Yeah, it's really like, well... The United States is weak right now. I mean, it's the biggest economy in the world, biggest military in the world, and basically they could nuke us into oblivion too. But they don't want to murder a bunch of our citizens, and we don't give a fuck if we murder our citizens, and we don't give a fuck if we murder a bunch of Ukrainians. So we take that as weakness.
It looks like they're going for it. And where does that leave NATO, the NATO alliance?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that's what happened. He was going to be satisfied with a peace, and now he sees the weakness and the incompetence and the stupidity of this administration. And as an American, I'm angry about it, and I'm saddened by it. And it all happened because of a rigged election. This would have never happened. And that includes inflation, and that includes millions of people pouring in on a month.
Okay, first of all, inflation is occurring because of supply shock. It's not a monetary policy thing. The Fed's been buying up treasuries. We're not awash in cash. There's not a lot of more money flowing in the system than there was before. There just isn't. But, it wouldn't have happened. Never mind.
Basis, far more than 3 million people, and they're coming from 129 different countries. We have no idea what's happening, and they're destroying our country.
President,
I blame the wall.
Trump, we actually have, just hold on, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we're going to the Pentagon, I believe. Ukraine, sorry, Ukraine is speaking at the UN.
Whoops, what happened? Did they cut out of the thing? Hold on. Did they cut out the Ukrainian part and then come back to what she was saying? What happened? Oh, there we go. Somebody overlaid that.
Zelensky earlier today, President Trump, where in Russian, he doesn't like to speak Russian, but in Russian, he was essentially imploring Vladimir Putin not to invade his country. Now we basically have the Ukrainian ambassador to the United Nations looking like a defeated man. Your final reaction?
Yeah. You know what it's like to be a defeated man? Tell us how you feel. Let us know, maybe you have an insight since you've been recently defeated. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. And I thank you.
I think the whole thing, again, would have never happened. It shouldn't happen.
Never.
And it's a very sad thing. But you know what's also very dangerous is you told me about the amphibious attack by Americans. You shouldn't be saying that because you and everybody else shouldn't know about it. They should do that secretly, not be doing that through the great Laura Ingraham. They should be doing that secretly. Nobody should know that, Laura.
Nobody should know.
That was the Russian. Those are the Russian amphibious landing.
No, I thought you said that. I thought you said that we were sending people in.
No, I did not. No. That would be news.
But by the way, if anybody was wondering if he's still getting his briefings, or if they do offer him, he gives a shit, there's your answer.
That's all, and you know what? Hey, that's all we need. That'll be next, okay? Now, we ought to protect our own borders. We ought to get to the southern border and start protecting the southern border.
Yeah, first thing we got to do is tear down that fucking wall, because it doesn't work. It's made it worse. I mean, if the numbers are worse than they were under Obama, then and what's the difference between now and then? The wall, clearly.
It's a very terrible situation. It's a situation that should have never happened, Laura.
Never.
Well, there was a poll that just came out today was I think it was 36% support, American support for increased military involvement in Ukraine. So there does not seem to be, at least right now, public appetite for us to get involved militarily. President Trump, we really appreciate your joining us tonight.
Yeah, and Biden knows this. He's not sending people in.
On what is going to go down as a very historic series of events in Ukraine. Thank you so much. And back with me now is Fox's foreign correspondent, Trey.
She just broomed him. Shit, he didn't even wait to say goodbye. That's kind of amazing.